My name is Sky. I've been playing Arc Raiders for 200 hours or so, and I completed my first expedition about a week ago. When I was sitting there wondering what I should do next and what is something that I will need to do next wipe, I realized that one of the things that would be very important is stash management. And since I had gone through and set up my stash management the way I want it to be, I wanted to make this video to maybe help out some new players or help out people who are struggling with their stash to be able to get their stash together. This is going to be a little bit of a ramble video, I hope you do not mind, but it should cover everything you would need to know in regards to stash. So if we take a look over here at the stash, I'm using currently 258 out of 280. If you take a look over and exclude the keys that I have, and you exclude the blueprints I am holding onto for friends, we're looking at somewhere closer to 240 stash space used. Now if you take a look over here, the augments and the shields, generally I wouldn't really keep many of these. The only reason I have these is because I actually swapped these out very recently for a medium shield and a looting MK3 since I've been hunting for the Tempest blueprint. But I would try to keep these down. Overall, I wouldn't really try to keep any of these. Now, if you take a look over at the weapons, I like to generally keep around 4 of every weapon. Here, every one of the purple weapons, and maybe 1 or 2 of any other type of weapon. The only exception is the anvil here, because the anvil has the splitters on them, and I didn't want the splitter to take up space. So I figured if I made the anvil for the splitters, then that wouldn't really be an issue. In regards to weapon mods, you just kind of slap them on all of your weapons. If you have any excess ones, I guess they would sit here, but generally speaking, you probably won't have any excess ones considering. The quick use section, this I kind of just hold on to whatever I need. I try to keep somewhere between 2 to 8 stacks of everything across the board, so I don't think that I will ever really run out of any of these mats if I need them, and if I ever need them, that is where the crafting materials comes in. So in regards to crafting materials, if you take a look here, you have complex gun parts, you have these Exodus models, and you have these magnetic accelerators. These are really just kind of used to build some of the higher end weapons. So if you're not really building any of those, if you don't plan on using them for whatever reason, you have gear fear, you're afraid of losing it, whatever reason, any of your psychological reasons why, I would just get rid of these and save yourself even more space. That's 12 slots right there, and 14 if you include not making snap hooks and not making heavy shields. You can recycle these into really decent mats. Generally speaking, all of these are very useful materials, like processors, magnets, advanced mechanical components, motion cores, advanced electrical components and arc circuitry, as well as simple gun parts, which is used very, very much. Now, if you go over these power cells, they're decent for the surge shield rechargers. I like to keep a couple of them just in case. And when it comes to advanced electrical components, you use these a lot. Whenever you're dying, whenever something happens, you want to get another MK3 going. Whichever MK3 you prefer, that's a whole nother video in itself. You would be using these. These advanced mechanical components are basically used in most of the higher tier upgraded weapons, so I also like to keep 8 stacks of these. The arc circuitry, you use these generally just to spam medium shields, but if you recycle your medium shield, you get this back. So you're pretty much only using them in the event that you die, because you can just recycle this and a medium shield really just costs 4 batteries. And not an arc circuitry and 4 batteries. So that is a very useful little tip there. Arc motion cores, These, you really are using them for the wolf packs. If you want to go kill a queen or something like that, a matriarch, a queen, anything like that, you would use them for the launcher ammo. But generally speaking, these, I just like to keep 4 of them in the event I want to make a bunch of wolf packs or hunt down a rocketeer or something. The explosive compound, these are also the same. I like to keep the same amount of stacks of the explosive compounds as I do the arc motion cores. In some scenarios, because you might also be making trailblazers, I would possibly keep 8 stacks of explosive compounds if you really find yourself using a lot of explosives. But generally speaking, I like to keep 4. The heavy gun parts and light, medium, all of these are a little rarer and they cost a lot of simple gun parts to make. So I would generally keep these at 8 stacks if you can. But some people, I imagine for a good chunk of people, you would only probably need like 4 stacks of these. And you could upgrade any weapon that you get that you really want to level 4 at any point in time. The mod components, I like to keep 8 stacks of these. These are very important. You're going to be making a lot of mods for your weapons as far as attachments goes, and you'll always be needing mod components. The processors here, these are also used for the Mark IIIs. So I like to keep 8 stacks of the processors. Everything stays super organized this way. The sensors, these are used for hatch keys mainly. If you're going a lot of PvP, explosive vines, things like that, these would also be very useful. But generally speaking, you really just keep them for the Raider hatch keys, especially if you're like questing or something and you just want to get in and out. Raider hatch keys are very useful for that. Synthesized fuel, these are used for the trailblazers. I like to keep around four sets of these. If you want to keep 8 sets of these because you make a lot of trailblazers, that's totally up to you. These voltage converters, they're mainly used for that heavy shield. If you use some weird tech with the showstoppers to easily kill off the rocketeers, I know that is an option, then you could keep more than 2 stacks of these, but I like to keep these generally low because I don't make that many heavy shield. I keep the same amount of stacks of power rods as I do these volters, because I know that that's exactly what I'm going to use them for. And that's something that's very important. It's being able to distinguish exactly what you craft and what you use them for, and keeping the stacks like that. Let's see, we have arc alloys. These are generally used for light shields. I don't make many light shields anymore. I mostly run in the medium and heavy category, so I try to keep these low. But early on in your progression, you may want to keep like 4 stacks of these to make tons of light shields and things like that. But if you ever really need light shields, generally like you start off with a free kit anyways, and you just kind of work from there. Light shields are very easy to repair, so you won't be needing to recycle anything or anything like that. So it's really up to you. Other than that, anytime I get a lot of arc alloys in raid, I just kind of convert them into motion cores or arc circuitry. Right? And I don't really use sea grenades. I kind of go into the Trailblazer and the Wolfpack. These batteries, I like to keep 4 stacks of them. I've been replacing my medium shield a lot, considering I've been doing a lot of harvester events lately. And so the medium shields have been eating up my batteries. But I like to keep 4 stacks of these if I can do it. These canisters, I mainly keep just 1 stack just because the only use I really use them for is patinas. If you are a heavy PvPer and want to use more smoke grenades, you could keep more canister stacks, but for the most part, yeah, I kind of just keep it down to 1 stack. I don't really need more than to make 3 patinas at any given time, and canisters are very easy to get a hold of. These crude explosives, you can keep more if you want. If you are struggling to find explosive compounds and you want to be able to craft explosive compounds, you take these and you take these oil here, and that's generally how you would do it. But for the most part, I keep 1 stack of these just in the event I want to make something out of them. The duct tape, I try to keep 4 stacks of these, but it's really hard because, again, you're using a lot of mods, you're creating a lot of mods for your weapons, things like that. So you're constantly going to be burning through these like the batteries. These, Duct tape and batteries, you're burning through them like all the time. Whenever you're doing raids, whenever you're making guns, whenever you're doing anything like that. So that's why I usually use a lot of them. The durable cloth, I like to keep 2 stacks because a lot of the time I don't end up keeping a lot of great mullion. These I tend to burn through very quickly because these are like healing items that you're constantly using, especially for those herbal bandages down here. Since the herbal bandages stack to 5, generally I like to run these over anything else. Because if you have like the 3 sterilized bandage, anything like that, you can only heal yourself 3 times. And any chip damage is really hard to heal up unless you are using this augment here that heals you every 5 seconds. Where was I? As far as the electrical components goes, if you are still on the MK2s and you want to craft a lot of MK2s, early on these are very important. You could keep like 4 stacks of these when you start out. But as I started getting into the MK3s and using those more consistently and I have more than enough mat, I try not to keep more than like 2 stacks of these electrical components. The mullins, you're probably not going to have more than like 4 stacks of this ever. But generally, I usually have around 2 stacks of these. And the magnets, similar to the electrical components, unless you're making like a lot of venators, or if you're making a lot of the MK2s, then I wouldn't keep many stacks of this magnet. I don't make many venators. I don't personally use them. But again, it is up to you. You can keep somewhere between 1 to 4 stacks of magnets at any given time. These mechanical components, I'm always burning through them. So generally, you just craft these very easily. They're not too important to keep stacked, but they do eat away at all of your like metal parts and stuff like that. So if you ever find them in raid, pick them up, keep them. These are very good. Somewhere between like 2 to 4 stacks is generally what I have at any given time. And if I'm lower than that, I just craft more just to keep my metal down. Oil, we already kind of covered that. Unless you're making a lot of renegades, you're really just using them to make explosive compounds. And the simple gun parts, you're going to need a lot of these. I would just keep as many stacks as you can get, especially since you use these to craft any of the gun parts. So if you're ever low on gun parts, or if you're ever like upgrading an anvil, a Berletta, anything like that, any of the tier 2 guns, you're going to be using a lot of simple parts. So simple parts, you want to keep as many of these as possible. I'm down to like 2 stacks of these, but I would keep up to like 8 stacks of these if I can. And the same with the springs. I basically would take any springs that I could get because you use them in so many different things. You use them to craft these advanced mechanical components. You use them. Wait, let me double check that. Hold on. Yeah, you use them to craft these mechanical components. You use them to craft mod components. You're going to be always like out of these. So if you're not always out of these or using them a lot, you're going to want to be stacking them a lot. Wires is kind of the same way. Somewhere between 2 to 8 stacks of these is very important to always have. But as you go along, wires become, I guess, a little less important if you're able to stack up some of the bigger items. Namely because you use them to craft the advanced electrical components. And you also, I believe you use them to craft something else as well. Yeah, a lot of like the early attachments can use wires instead of duct tape. And so that's why these are very important. As far as the basic materials, generally speaking, chemicals, fabrics, metal parts, plastics, rubber parts, I like to just keep 8 of them. So like 2 rows worth. Just because at any point in time, you know, you could be using a ton of them. Especially if you start getting into like refining things. So an example, oh, I'm out of mechanical components. Oh, I'm just gonna go craft like 10 of these. There goes 70 of them, right? Oh, I need some ammo. I need some heavy ammo. On top of that, now you've gone through another 30. So you've gone through like 100, 200 of these in like one sitting. And the main thing you don't want to have happen is you run out of any of these mats. Because then you are wasting time going out of your way to get like metal parts, right? You're doing a metal part run, which doesn't feel ideal. You want to be like looting up all the good goop, right? You don't want to be looting up metal parts. You, for the most part, once you get out of that early game, your scrappy should be supplementing most of what you would ever need. Especially if you're doing really fast raids. Like, once you start getting into, like, let's say I'm doing a Tempest Blueprint farm and I'm only in raid for 4 minutes and I run it like 6 times, I'm gonna have a lot of metal part. I'm gonna have a lot of rubber. I'm gonna have too much, and that's when you start selling them when you have like 8 stacks of them. If you have 8 stacks or more, right? But that's pretty much how I organize my stash. In regards to things, keys, I mean, they're keys, you hold them or you sell them or whatever, you give them to friends, you use them, right? And blueprints, you're usually popping them as soon as you get them, or you're holding them for a friend, as I am in this case. And in that way, with that kind of setup, I usually have somewhere between 30 to 40 stash space at any given time. If you cut out like these, you would go down to like 200, right? 220, give or take. And that, I believe, is enough stash space for anyone to kind of work with as far as anything goes. If I have more than the mats that I need, I just kind of sell them. As you can see, I'm at like 6.6 million just because I've been doing a lot of blueprint farming and I've been in friendlier lobbies lately because I've been blueprint farming. So the coins kind of come just naturally once this happens. Once you get your stash set up the way you want it to, yeah, they'll come very naturally. If I really wanted to, I would only keep like 4 stacks instead of 8 of most of these materials, keeping it down to like 200. But I found that this specific setup that I have is keeping me afloat. And I am having not many issues with stash space if I don't hold on to 50 blueprints from my friends or 40 keys, right? So make sure you're actively using those keys that you have. You'll constantly find more. Make sure that you are, if you're holding on to blueprints for friends, make sure you're getting them out there or you're trading them or whatever you want to do with it. You could even be giving them away if you have excess ones. You just bring them into the raid and be like, hey, you looking for this, buddy? Right? So that's something that you could do in regards to those. As far as the quick slot items, this is an excessive amount of quick slot items. I wouldn't carry this many snap hooks. I just found a lot. I'd usually keep around 4 on hand and maybe 8 wolf packs at tops, right? I try to keep somewhere between like 2 to 4 of whatever items I actively use, right? I've just been getting like an excess of a lot of stuff like these defibs, these shield rechargers. I should probably use these a little more. Finally got a lot saved up. And these herbal bandages, shield rechargers, things like that. So that pretty much covers the entire stash, I think. As far as ammunition goes, I guess, I don't think I covered ammunition that much. I kind of glossed over it. I wouldn't really bother keeping too much of it. Like, you can craft it whenever. Just keep whatever you kind of got and use it. Feel free to use it however you want, especially if you're dying a lot. You'll find that these are kind of come and go, right? But that pretty much covers everything. I don't really think there's anything else to really talk about. I've never really had any issues since I started implementing this exact system I have in. And it looks very clean. Like, when you're scrolling through, is this not satisfying to just go through and see it organized this exact way and everything's in the rows as intended for the most part? But yeah, that's basically it. That is everything I really have to mention on the stash, and I will see you topside.